Hi folks, so welcome to Module 5. Module 5 is on assessment. This is a very important module for you to pay attention to, okay? It's the one area where most people have the most difficulty. So I'm going to walk you through what I'm asking you to do this week. It's all written here for you, but as usual, I'll walk it through. Last week I gave you a book to read by Rick Wormley, and if you didn't finish it, that's fine, but do finish it at some point. It's a very important book. Also gave you some other information from him. He and Carol Tomlinson are seen as the gurus on differentiation. So this PowerPoint is about assessing in the differentiated classroom. It's quite long, but it's also quite good. So please take the time to watch it and not just skip through it, please. And I started out making a few comments about this, and it turned into a regular speech, and I'm not going to make that here in this audio, but I would like you to read what I have written, because I'm really passionate about proficiency-based classrooms, not necessarily all the standards that we have. Those are the law of the land, and we have to follow them, but I do believe in proficiency-based or mastery-based assessment, and this is just a little of my opinion. It's backed by research, but please read it. And you can see it's a little bit long, and I apologize for that. So, and this is a very important PowerPoint. Those of you who are concurrently enrolled in EDU 380 have already seen this. Please watch it and pay attention to it. Creating rubrics, standards-based rubrics, is not an easy thing to do. And even though I've given you examples, I've given you this PowerPoint, um, inevitably I will get a rubric that is not standards-based. It will say, participated in class, paid attention in class. Those are not standards. Those are attitudinal check sheets. It's okay to have attitudinal check sheets, but when you're assessing learning, that's on the standards themselves. If you read my words, I think that'll help you out a little bit. And do watch the PowerPoint and ask questions if you have any, please. If you look at the rubric that I'm using to score your unit plan, and I've given that to you right up front, look at the language and how I use the language of the standard. That's what's important. And many of the standards that you might have chosen have several parts to it, so you have to break those down as well. I've given you a student example here on a probability unit from a math teacher. He does a really good job of breaking down a big standard that has several components and assessing each one of those components. Here are some supplemental readings on assessment. Please read them all. Each one is very, very important. Your content area reading assignments. And then for your discussion, I've given you a Prezi to watch. Please watch it. Within that Prezi is an embedded video, and please look at that as well. So this Prezi summarizes pretty well the purposes of proficiency-based learning and assessment. The narrator here, though, you'll notice, is still stuck in a foot in both lands. He hasn't totally let go of letter grades yet. And many schools are not letting go of letter grades. They are continuing to do proficiency-based scoring and translating those into grades. I have a lot of problem with that, but we'll see how it all plays out. So watch this and then answer the questions here. Have a discussion about assessment and about the affordances and constraints of proficiency-based assessment, because it certainly is very different than what we're used to seeing. And then continue working on your unit of study. I want you to complete a rubric for your summative assessment, okay? You may have more than one. I only need to see one at this point just to make sure that you're understanding how to structure these. Making sure you're using the language of the standards you are assessing and not pulling things in that are not there. So I only need to see one rubric, just to make that clear, and it has to be on a summative assessment for your unit. Use your UBD, your Understanding by Design template. That is your roadmap for your entire unit. Don't just put that in a closet somewhere and start making all these lesson plans and rubrics. That is your guideline, so make sure you're following that. I'd like you to construct or explain at least one formative assessment you plan to implement. And this is a more formal formative assessment. So I know that observation is a formative assessment, but tell me what else you're going to do. Are you going to do, you're going to have students, do exit slips or admit slips? Are you going to have them do short quizzes? What is it you're going to do to try to understand where your students are in their learning? And I know you'll do many of them, but I only want to know one. And you can explain it, or you can actually submit whatever you're going to be using. Using your scope and sequence, okay, so you have your UBD. From that, you made a scope and sequence. Continue fleshing out your lesson plans, all right? You're going to have a lesson plan for each day of your unit in your completed unit plan at the end of the semester. I'd like you to submit one more for feedback. I'm not going to ask you to submit every single one for feedback because that would take us forever. But I want to make sure you've got the hang of this before you go on and make several lesson plans. So I want to see one more lesson plan. If it's not the second one, the one after your introductory lesson plan, explain to me where it comes in the sequence. Okay. Then I want you to begin to think about creating an appendix for your unit of study. This is where you would put handouts, formative assessments, graphic organizers, PowerPoints, or any other materials that you would be distributing. So that will be in an appendix so that when I read the unit of study, it'll be a clean read. I can start with your rationale, your UBD, your scope and sequence, and then your series of lesson plans. And then in those lesson plans, you'll reference whatever handouts or whatever you're using in the appendix so I can go to the appendix and see those, okay? If you are repurposing anything from the internet, please make sure you properly cite, okay? So here is where you submit the 3 things I'm asking for this week: a summative assessment rubric aligned with standards and using the language of the standards, a formative assessment, and a second lesson plan. And that's it, folks. So I'll be looking forward to hearing from you.